Hot diggity damn. We're back with another episode of World 1-1 Podcast, powered by the World 1-1 Podcast Network. I am, as always, your host, Larry the Bearded Wonder. Joining me this week are my friends, Josh the LeGroux.
Yo.
And Wes Evans.
Wait, has that been my name this whole time?
Yeah.
Oh.
I just checked all your paperwork. It's here on your I-9.
Nice.
I mean, if that's not your name, you want to go by something else, let us know now.
Right.
Oh, no, I'm put on
You
the spot.
got to run it through HR, though. That's a lot of paperwork.
I think I'll stick with Wes. I think that's a good name.
Okay.
So this week on the back half of the show, in the third half, we're deep diving into the Activision Blizzard Microsoft buyout. But first, we're going to get into, oh my God, video games. Wes, what in the ever-loving fuck have you been playing?
So lately I've been putting 3 games in my rotation. 2 of them I'm more than happy to say I've been playing, and one of them I'm not quite as proud to say I've played it as much as I have. But let's go into the first 2. So I've been playing a lot of Yakuza 0 lately. And to simply describe that, I have no idea how I feel about it, but I'm certainly feeling something.
Okay. Is this your first Yakuza game?
It is, yes.
Okay.
It's like, I know art when I see it, and that's art, but I don't know why.
Yeah, it's like looking at the Mona Lisa going, why? What?
Yeah, like I don't know if I'm looking at a train wreck or a Monet painting, but whatever I'm looking at, I can't turn away.
You like it enough, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're looking at the inside of a porta potty at an IBS symposium that's been wallpapered with Monets.
Oh man, God. It's not that bad, Larry. Come on.
But like I have to say I'm enjoying it, because otherwise why do I keep playing it as much?
Sure.
But at the same time, yeah, I think that sums it up. The other game that I'm more than happy to say I've been playing would have to be the Artful Escape. I'll say I didn't think I would enjoy it nearly as much as I have, simply because most games that fall under the walking simulator category haven't held my interest very long. And I didn't actually look it up if it was developed by the same people, but some of the dialogue options reminded me of Oxenfree, at least in its art style.
Okay.
And so that concerned me a little, because Oxenfree did not hold my attention for very long. Not even the ghosts could save it, I'm going to be honest. But
Really?
This one, I'm going to say, with the exception of Edith Finch, this is probably the best that I've played in terms of that genre. Like, it kind of like Yakuza, it's so outrageously out there. Plus, the use of color and music is great. On top of that, I actually really, really like the story. The story is, a lot of people might think it's a story about music, but it's really a story that uses music as the medium, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It answers the question, what would happen if it was a good thing if Bob Dylan went electric?
Okay.
So
Fair.
the one problem I have, and kind of goes along with the genre in general, the gameplay consists of walking to the right and playing Simon. You remember those old Simon games where it would light up red, you'd have to hit red, it'd go red, green, you gotta hit red, green, etc.
Yeah, the memory
That's Jesus. That was not that long ago, but
yeah. But yeah. Hey, you guys remember that old movie, The Empire Strikes Back? How old is this guy?
yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking right now.
And the one that I've played it too much not to talk about it would have to be Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, which just came out the other day.
I could see you being a Yu-Gi-Oh person. You've never said as much, but I could. You can kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a good friend from back home got me back into it during the pandemic when it first started, and we were just sitting at home not doing much otherwise. Because when I was a little West, about yay high below where you can see on the camera, I was obsessed with collecting the cards and watching the show. Didn't follow the rules at all, because it's way too complex for their target audience in the US.
Right.
But now I'm an adult Wes who can actually read and actually can follow the rules. And I've put in more hours into it over the past few days than I am proud to admit. In the process, though, I've got 2 semi-decent good decks that you can build with the resources. Haven't put a cent towards the game yet. And I gotta say, of the free-to-play deck builders I've played, with the exception of Gwent, it's at probably the best for free-to-play players, at least at first. I don't know how long it's going to stay, because a lot of the resources that you get come from early missions that can't be repeated.
Sure.
So take that opinion with a grain of salt, but I'm having fun deck building, I'm having fun playing, and yeah. So that's what I've been playing lately. What about you guys?
Josh, what have you been digging into? Because I know it's not Narita boy like me, and it should be.
Not yet. No. I started up Far Cry 6 just for an hour, and I got it. I'm liking it, but I'm just an hour, like literally an hour in. It hasn't even really even opened up yet as much as I thought it would. But also started Firewatch, which I've never played, which is part of my backlog. Which Wes and I need to talk about on backlog at some point.
Firewatch is so good.
So I really like that game, and I've been wanting it, and I've been looking at buying it for the last several months, and then it came up on Game Pass.
There you go.
So I was like, you know what? This is the reason I don't listen to my instincts and buy stuff right away anymore. I just wait a little bit. Although I love buying games, if I just want to play a game, Firewatch is great that's a great game to just get on Game Pass, right?
Yeah.
So I've been really enjoying so far. I've played a couple hours. I've really enjoyed the story so far. I'm very slow gamer at games like this, so I'm probably going to spend way more time than the average time to beat, quote unquote, would be.
Right.
Just because I like uncovering all the story aspects so far. Really enjoying it. I don't really have much to say about it other than I like it and I want it to keep going right now.
Nice. Anything else?
No, I live a very boring life. You know that, Larry.
I know.
I know the feeling of wanting to avoid buying games because of Game Pass. So over Christmas, I ended up buying Death's Door. And sure enough, it went on Game Pass about a month later, and I still haven't had a chance to play it yet. So
the thing about Game Pass, which is really just like throwing me for a loop, is that even older games are not immune to it. Like, you would think if the game was X number of years old, that you could just go buy it and you'd be okay. And that was the thing with Firewatch. Like, I was thinking like, oh, I'm just going to buy this thing. Then it was $20. And I'm like, you know what? That's $20. It's not a lot of money, but it's like not really what I want to spend. And then I was looking at, the limited run edition of Firewatch, and it's like $90. And I'm like, nah, I'm not going to buy a physical of it I like the game that much that I would like a physical version of it, but I'm not going to go out of my way to get it, So it's just one of those things I would have on the shelf and just let it sit there. But yeah, on Game Pass, it's perfect. It's a perfect game for Game Pass, in my opinion, especially if you want to play it cloud-based. It doesn't really matter if it's, lagging or not.
Right. There's definitely some games that are better suited for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I actually got some game time in recently. Little handful mix of stuff. One that got me really excited and is really a lot of fun to get into. Been dinking around with our Oculus Quest and playing The Climb, which is a first-person VR free climbing simulator game thingy.
Yeah.
And it's really good. Man, is it cool. Visually, like, it's not the most high fidelity, but it is still real pretty to look at. The mechanics actually work really well. Like, it's there to give you a solid challenge. You've got an endurance level on each of your hands, the left and the right. So you can only hold on to a ledge for so long one-handed before you've got to, switch hands or find a ledge where you can grab with both hands to rest and recover. But the longer you go without rechalking your hands, you lose more stamina in each hand if you don't rechalk them periodically.
Ooh.
So yeah, no, it's definitely got like management elements to it, but very minute and manageable management elements. But that's a lot of fun. It's really cool. It's so trippy how your body reacts in VR, because even though they were holding nothing but the little controllers, like my arms felt after like an hour and a half, 2 hours of playing this, my arms felt like they'd been holding my fat ass up the whole time instead of my legs. So that was really trippy and weird and cool, but that was a ton of fun to play. I have been digging into Narita Boy, and it is really good. I started it when I started it. It was like midday on a weekend, and I'm dying apparently from the inside out. But I was chilling on the couch midday on the weekend and started up Narita Boy because I'm like, this looks really fucking cool, and I was fighting off like that mid-Sunday nap thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I forgot how fun that is, where you're just laying there. It's like, one more level, tired. One more level, tired. But I love the art style in there. It's got like this tricolor 80s lanky PC character platformy design to it. I get the definite impression that there were probably some drugs involved in making it. Yeah, definitely drugs. Definitely.
Lots of drugs.
I wouldn't say lots, but there was definitely drugs. There's no way there was not drugs. It's what am I? It was just it felt really good to play too. Like the movement and the combat felt solid.
Sure.
Part of me is trying to think now, like think back to late 80s, early 90s PC games, if they actually felt that good, or if I'm just like rose tinted glasses remembering this shit. So, but this feels a lot of fun to play. It feels right and it feels on point. Another one that's been kind of heavy in my rotation is I've been playing Super Impossible Road, which is kind of like the best parts of Rainbow Road from Mario Kart 64. It generates this big, long, downward spiral-ish track with no rails, and you play a little sphere, and it's just you racing other spheres down the track. But the best way to win, or the most efficient way, is to jump the track, but you got to hope to God that you actually land on track further down instead of just floating off into fucking space. So there's a solid risk-reward element in there.
Right.
But it's a real solid challenge, though. Like, that game does not fuck around. It is not nice. It's like, oh, no, you better stay on point all the time. So there's a couple of, like, endless challenge modes in there that are a lot of fun, too. I don't know if I feel great about the $20 price tag on it. This feels like this should have been 10 to 15. Like, if they come in at a $12.99 would have been just about right.
Sure.
But 20 felt a little salty for it, but I'm still having a lot of fun with it. They've got like little customizable parts to your orb that you can change out for different stats, like, traction and handling and acceleration and all that shit. So, but it's not like it visually changes a ton, but it does make some visual changes, which was a needless but nifty touch. It's the least you can do, I suppose. But that's kind of most of what I've been spinning, I think. I've been kind of sidebar gaming, or like backseat driver gaming some Metroid Dread with Zoe, because she's working her way through it. Which actually later tonight she was talking about getting on and playing some more of that. I don't remember who I told, but I said something to somebody that just watching her like screaming reaction to running away from the Emmys is worth the $60 price tag I paid for that game.
Well, yeah,
it's so much fucking fun watching her flip her shit when they come after her.
I keep hearing people talk about this game and talking about how much they hate the Emmys. Of course, the Emmys aren't going to recognize Metroid Dread. The Emmys are about TV. Metroid Dread is a video game. Why does everyone hate the Emmys?
Fuck the Oscars.
Fuck the Oscars.
Fuck the Oscars. Can't believe Eddie hated that speech. That was one of the greatest speeches of all time.
So how much Eddie just has to buck against whatever's cool.
How much do you want to bet the reason that It Takes Two won Game of the Year was just so Yosef could take the stage again?
I was disappointed at his acceptance speech. There wasn't one fuck the Oscars in his acceptance speech.
No, because now everybody knows it already. So it's like, okay, we're good.
Should have switched to bareback the Oscars. Raw dog the Oscars.
Raw dog. Yeah.
You gotta take the Oscars out to dinner first.
That's right. You gotta buy them flowers and give them a little slap and tickle.
Well, that was It Takes Two. That was the.
That was the flowers.
That was the yeah.
Oh hell. But yeah, that's what I've been playing. So I suppose that puts us at a good point to take a pause, and we'll be back with our deep dive in the third half of the show on the Activision Blizzard Microsoft buyout. So on your marks, get set, break! And we're back with the third half of the show. This week we're taking a deep dive into the Microsoft Activision Blizzard buyout. Not just the surface level news of it, but more a deeper look at what it means, what could possibly go wrong, and everything else surrounding it. So let's dig in. LeGrew, I know you and I have been kind of shooting back and forth on this a lot.
Yeah.
Why don't you start off? Where do you want to dig into this?
I'll just start with my general thoughts, and then maybe we can discuss and then kind of move on from there. Because I know like Wes has some other thoughts, and you probably have some other thoughts too. So, honestly, like when I first heard the news, I immediately thought it was a joke, and I looked at the calendar to make sure it was not April 1st.
Dude, I fucking did too. I'm like,
I was like, okay, we are in January,
like
right?
who's shit posting stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Is this an out of season April Fool's joke?
Right. That's what I thought.
Clearly.
Because the kids, quote unquote, are doing stuff all different nowadays. So I never know what day it actually is. So I was like, okay, well, all right. I'm not going senile. It is not April 1st, and there's not any kind of weird thing online that I don't know about. Right. So I was floored by it. Because I've said this a lot in like the group chat that we have, but I also said this a lot to other friends. My bets were on if Microsoft was going to acquire a company, it was going to be Ubisoft, just because of they were embattled before and they kind of came back. But I just thought that was what they were looking at. So but it was on the same scale. So I was like, okay, at least part of my instinct was right, that they were looking for some big acquisition to do. And
they had their sights set on big game hunting.
Right. And my 20,000 foot view looking down is that it makes sense. Microsoft is trying to control IP, trying to control verticals for Game Pass. They have to feed this beast now that they've created, because like Netflix even realized, and everybody that has a streaming service realizes that you have to feed this beast with more stuff, or at least get it lined up to feed it, because people are subscribing to it, but they won't take like 6 months of nothing, right? They want to make sure that they have something of value every month, or at least value to them every month. So I can understand now why they're feeding this beast with that. And from just the personal side, I mean, I have an Xbox Series X. I don't have a PS5 yet, and I'm going to buy one. I just haven't got around to it. I'm not a big fan of the industry consolidation as a whole, but I understand it because it's taking these titans of companies to basically battle each other. Because unfortunately, we've gotten to this point where the industry is so large that it's hard for the little guy to like break out now. So I kind of get it in a way, even though Activision Blizzard is not a little guy by any chance, but I get why the consolidation is starting to happen in bigger and bigger things. Mm-hmm. I also, on just a 20,000 foot view down, because I know a little something about business and stuff, I start getting a little worried about monopolization and monopolization techniques, because a lot of people say, oh, there's not anywhere close to a monopoly, but monopolies can also work vertically, not just horizontally. So if you control everything vertical, like if a company, for example, is making a game and they can develop the game, they can, program the game, they can market the game, they can publish the game, they sell the game, they can support the game, all within their ecosystem. They don't ever have to go outside. That could be shown as stifling competition eventually. And in the United States, antitrust lawyers hate Microsoft. And so I have a feeling that they're going to get away with this one because of the way that the other companies are set up and the way the structure of the industry set up. And just today, too, I saw that the DOJ did revise their rules for mergers and acquisitions. So it's
the FTC is looking into adjusting how they approach antitrust monopoly laws and mergers. This is the signaling here that you're getting too close to the sun. Stop flying, basically. Go stay in your. But now they may still grow to a point where they need to be cut up in a couple of sections. But I have a feeling that's kind of why. I think they honestly knew this, and that's why they're like, Microsoft. Phil Spencer is going to be CEO of Microsoft Gaming, and so if they ever have to break that company up, they just take that company and put it to that. It's still part of Microsoft, but it's Microsoft Gaming. That kind of thing. So they get around that little loophole, but that's just my 20,000-foot view. I know it's a lot of info, but go ahead, guys. You got Utah. Wes, what you thinking over there? How are you feeling about Microsoft, swallowing up one of the three non-console titans?
Right. So kind of like LaGrue said, I was thinking that Microsoft was trying to get one of the big three as well. However, I was expecting it to be EA if it was going to be one of the three.
Sure.
Because right now they've already got a pretty good relationship with them. EA Play being on Xbox, getting the lowest tier of it if you have Game Pass Ultimate.
Right.
And if I had to pick a second one, I would have guessed Ubisoft because, you're seeing a Ubisoft program. It's called Ubisoft Plus, I think.
Right.
Just came to Xbox.
Correct.
So of the three, Activision would have been the last one that I would have guessed, especially considering they're the biggest of the three, solely looking at how much they're worth.
Right.
So that was surprising. From a non-business standpoint, though, not purely a gaming, but on a employee standpoint, I think that this at least is a positive in that. Now, monopolies are their own problem, and I'm not denying they're not. But at the same time, there's no denying Activision Blizzard has been ran very poorly lately.
Right.
And anyone who says otherwise is
15 years.
And in fact, if you look at the price they paid for the stock, it actually is the price before all the news started breaking about Activision Blizzard, and so they're paying the price before, So that's a good take, I think.
And so the fact that they were so embattled, though, like you said, I think is the reason why they were able to get it for such. It seems like a big price, and I'm not saying it's not compared to how much money you and I have, but Activision, prior to all their scandals coming public, was worth $80 billion, and their value went down to $55 billion, I believe, recently.
Yep.
And so Microsoft paying just under 70 is practically a steal if they can steer it back in the right direction on how all the employees are being treated, right? And Wall Street Journal has posted that Bobby Kotick, once the deal is complete, is going to be gone.
Sure. Paying billions of dollars to exit. That was the one thing I did not like, and I think a lot of people don't like, is that he's just going to get off pretty much. And get his money, but at least he'll be gone.
Yeah, he's getting off with like a giant fucking paycheck too.
And he'll be gone. But I mean, I would be gone too if you paid me billions of dollars.
Yeah. So like you're solving one problem while also not punishing the person most responsible for causing it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Depends on. So I'm not denying that I'm upset that Kotick is getting off easy, but at the same time, if him getting off easy means the problem is solved faster, there's kind of like a give and take to that.
Sure.
And Activision Blizzard is like, so is he still gonna be held accountable at all though? Because I know they're still facing legal issues in the state of California with how they've been treating employees. So, I mean, at the same time though, with how much he's getting paid, it might as well probably be a slap on the wrist. Because I'm willing to bet money that's just going to be a big ass fine.
What I would bet is that, in fact, probably the lawyers are probably going to be paid by Blizzard Activision, not him. So at this point, because he's still quote unquote CEO, and so they usually have protection clauses in place. Like if they get sued personally, the company pays for it.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and he's going to get off because here's the deal. Like he's so well insulated from it, unless they can like pointing right to him and literally saying he did illegal things and showing proof that he did illegal things.
Yeah.
He's going to get off. I mean, I have a feeling he started losing some of the board members, started feeling the pressure. And so when the option came to sell, he probably pushed this sale like really hard because of that reason, because he's like, oh, let's just get out now. And if I can get the money, basically a good sale for the shares, I'm going to go, you know? Right. And so it sucks. I know it does, but it's like you said, if it solves a problem of the company being better, I also think it's good for the employees. So there's more employees than there are of this guy. So it's like, hopefully their lives become better too, you know?
Right. And what you were saying is basically, I'm not an industry insider at all, and I don't claim to be. So I can only report on industry insiders who are saying they're hearing this. Right. So degrees of separation, take it with a grain of salt, if you will. But what we're saying is basically what he's hearing from people who work there. They're saying, we're glad he's gone, but we hate that he's getting off so easy, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so feelings are very much mixed. And so sounds like that's kind of how they feel too.
That's not surprising. I tell you what was surprising though, was just how far out of left field this was. There was no leakage, no indication, and it was straight up, oh shit, here, there it is.
And that happened with Bethesda too. We didn't hear anything.
Like, man, they kept the clam tight shut on this.
Yeah. I mean,
nobody was putting it out there.
No. And that was pretty impressive, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Which means, too, that that none of the people over at Activision Blizzard had a clue, on the lower rungs.
No.
Because if somebody did, it would have leaked.
Even Jason Schreier and other people who have insiders had no clue.
Yeah, there was no insight on this. It was just you knew or you didn't, and it was probably maybe a large handful of people that knew that were making it happen and signing documents and shit.
Was that the most surprising thing for you, Larry, or that you didn't hear about it, or was
kind of because I gotta say, it's like what you two were saying. For me, very much the opposite. Out of the big three publisher house titans, this one feels like it makes the most sense out of them because they are the most adjacent to Microsoft in terms of where they're at, because the other two are, real big. They're pretty evenly. What's the word I'm looking for? They're not console exclusive in terms of what they're doing, but that there's a much bigger heavy focus on console work for Ubisoft and Electronic Arts, maybe even a little bit of a split towards mobile with EA, but Activision Blizzard feels firmly like there's 1 foot planted in the console world and 1 foot planted in the PC world, because Blizzard is real heavy on the PC side and Activision tends to be much more heavy on the console side, and that lines up with what Microsoft does, because they've got 1 foot landed in their console business and 1 foot on their PC platform, and it feels like it dovetails perfectly.
Yeah. Also,
that makes a shit ton of sense to me.
Speaking of which, something that not a lot of people have been talking about is this is actually a huge introduction for Microsoft to get into the mobile market because King was part of them. Yeah. Yep. So now Microsoft owns Candy Crush, which
hey, say what you want about Candy Crush, but they made a lot of freaking money.
Yeah.
2024, calling it right now. Windows Phone makes a fucking comeback.
Please?
No, Windows
Phone. Honestly,
hey, look,
the only
Microsoft's
downside
right here to go back to the mobile market. They've already got Windows Phone.
The only problem the Windows Phone had was lack of app support. Changed my mind.
See, that's what's going to happen is they're going to bring back the Windows Phone and they're going to hire Kodak to run that division.
I love the Windows Phone. My wife Mel had one, and it was a great ease of use device. I mean, she had no problem using it, and it was just, and for her, the apps were more than enough.
Yeah.
But I did recently have to use my Windows Phone not that long ago because my phone broke and I had needed a phone for a few weeks, and they just put a new chip in it, and I was able to use it, and I realize now why they aren't around anymore because they're really terrible. But for what I use them for, they were bad. But I'm also used to something totally different. So
yeah.
If you just wanted a phone,
just not there either anymore.
I think if you wanted a phone that was like a smartphone light device, it was perfect.
I could see that. So my next question then is, excuse me, how long until Microsoft either starts locking down IPs from Activision Blizzard for exclusivity? Or how big of a paycheck do you think they're going to hold those exclusive rights hostage for?
Spider-Man? No. I don't know. Wes, do you have thoughts on this?
I have a pretty simple answer, and the answer is as soon as the deal is finished. Because
you're saying you're going to make it everything exclusive?
I mean, you don't. Everything that hasn't already signed a contract, basically.
Sure.
Because, because obviously we've seen Microsoft say that they respect already signed contracts. Like after they bought Bethesda, Deathloop was still a timed exclusive for the PlayStation.
Yeah.
But other than that, I really think they're going to start pushing exclusivity just because you don't spend almost $70 billion to give your competition some of the money.
It's true. I have that same. No, go ahead, Wes. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
And a lot of people are thinking, oh, they're missing out on a separate market if they don't put the likes of Call of Duty on PlayStation. But here's the thing, right? PlayStation alone, like whoever owns the platform you buy a game on, takes roughly between 20 to 40%, give or take.
Right.
A lot of publishers don't give the exact number. And if you buy a physical game in retail, then you get an even smaller cut because retail gets it. Then Sony gets it because it was a PlayStation game, so on and so forth. So it only takes converting so many people to buy the game on Xbox instead of PlayStation by putting it exclusive for you to make a net profit and not have to care about another market. So I'm saying as soon as all currently signed contracts have been fulfilled, you're going to start seeing a lot of Call of Duty games and other Activision properties solely on Xbox.
What do you think, Larry?
So I don't think it's going to go quite as exclusive as a lot of people are, as we've all been making jokes about for the last 2 days now.
Right.
Because I think Microsoft leverages this and tells Sony, you want some Call of Duty this year? Kiss the ring. And I think they're going to leverage, bend the knee, kiss the ring, and suck the toe. But, oh, wait, no, that's a different show. We're not talking.
Yeah.
But in any case,
all right,
Tarantino. We're not doing that right now.
So, but it makes sense to me because they can go, look, we've got it, and we can have them put together a report for you. Just, cut us this paycheck, and it's all yours again this year.
Sure. I understand both your guys' points, and I honestly think Wes is a little closer to what's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is anything that's in the works or already coming out is going to come out. And then once the deal closes, I think that we're going to see Call of Duty, like the new iteration of Call of Duty, come exclusive to Game Pass. I could even see it as a timed exclusive, like 6 months Game Pass, day one, whatever. Then the opportunity to go to PlayStation or PC, for example, for $70 or whatever cost they want to pay for it.
Right.
And I'd be more interested in thinking like, what's the long game on this? Because the long game would be to put everything on Game Pass, right? And stranglehold Sony until they capitulate to putting Game Pass on their device, which they may never do. And so the money to Microsoft I don't think is that big of a deal. And what it is that they want to, like, even when if you look at what they did with Windows, they didn't care if you were running an Apple computer, but they wanted freaking Windows on it, right? And so that's kind of what they're doing with Game Pass. Like, they want Game Pass on everything. So they're going to try to make some kind of exclusivity deal eventually for Game Pass. It'd be interesting to me to see if they're planned for older IP or dead IP, because Activision Blizzard has a ton of stuff. Like, when you look at like StarCraft and you start looking at things that like Warcraft, even things they haven't made stuff for in a long time. And they own a ton of dead IP. I would call dead, like Atari 2600 IP and things like that. That old
Pitfall
PC
3D.
gaming, old PC gaming stuff, even that they own now. So what are they going to do with this stuff? Are they just going to sit on it? I mean,
they might. I mean, look at what happened when Microsoft bought up Rare. You know,
I know
we're all like,
and that was in
we're
the
all
90s,
sitting here with our thumbs up our ass, going, "Where the fuck is our stuff?" You know, that you're
and
sitting.
it never happened.
How's about some Banjo Kazooie? You mind letting Battletoads out to play?
Yeah, I want
And
another.
then they did, and then that was.
God, what game? There was
not
another
happy
game that
about
everybody
Battletoads.
Blinks. Like, where the hell is Blinks? Blinks 2. You know?
Yeah.
You saying that actually made me think of something interesting, because isn't Sierra under Activision Blizzard?
Yeah.
So right now, why am I drawing a blank on his name? Tim Schafer, one of the legends of the point and click
Double
genre, is now
Yep.
working with Microsoft with Double Fine, and now Sierra is under that. So
Right.
could we see maybe some of the greats of the point and click adventure game give us maybe a good modern take on it? Because LeGrew, you and I were talking about 12 minutes, and now we could see like a return to form of that, like a more modern version.
Yeah,
I think
mean,
that'd
we
be
could
something
see.
cool.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think that's the more important thing now. Like, because Microsoft has acquired all these other things, that now they've got, this thing, and put these things together, like cross-pollinate them in some weird ways, and you're putting together some awesome opportunity. Now, whether people today like want to even see that, I don't know, but I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Now, here's what I'd like to see out of this, because Sony's obviously going to be feeling the pinch here a little bit, but I don't think they're completely backed into a corner here.
Well, they're the market leader, so no, they're not.
Right.
Well, but in terms of losing, some properties that cover some genres on an annual basis, Sony's sitting on their own pile of dead IPs too that they could be rummaging through. I mean, you've got SOCOM, Siphon Filter, Resistance, Killzone,
Infamous, even. I mean, stuff that they put on the back burner or aren't doing anything with, that because of no backward compatibility, we haven't been able to play for years.
Mm-hmm. Like, and those are some in just like one specific genre, really. But there's a couple of others I wouldn't mind seeing them drag back too, because they're going to have to really amp on their exclusive games too. Try and make up some lost ground for some series that just aren't going to come to them anymore, or even new IPs that they're not going to get because it's now all under Microsoft's umbrella. But I'd love to see them dig into the dead IP pile past just the shooters, of which there's some I wouldn't mind seeing come back, but some others like Siren or Legend of Dragoon, drag those up.
Yeah,
those have fan bases. God, especially Legend of Dragoon. Like, there's a real adamant fan base behind that title that desperately wants to see that come back around. Like, we don't care if you give that shit the FF7 treatment or if it's a sequel, but something, pull that out. You're twiddling your thumbs. You know, it's like you've got stuff you could be doing.
Yeah.
So
I mean, so
I hope honestly that it gets them to dig up some old IPs.
now, what do you think about the argument that like, oh, now Square Enix, they're gonna go and try to acquire them more readily, that kind of stuff?
I don't see it going down. Like the only way anybody gets Square at this point, I think is going to be a hostile takeover because Square makes too much money in all directions.
Right. And Microsoft has shown they're definitely, because you've seen a lot of Square games that were exclusive to other consoles previously start coming to
Game
Xbox.
Pass. Yeah.
Octopath was originally a Switch exclusive. Now it's on Game Pass. I know it wasn't exclusive because it was on PlayStation and Switch, but Dragon Quest XI, as soon as it was ported, was on Game Pass. Right. So Square makes too much money on all three consoles, I think, to be exclusive. If I had to guess, and keep in mind, my predictive skills have proven to be not very good because I thought EA would be the one of the three if Microsoft was going to buy them. If Sony is going to buy a studio, I'm predicting it's going to be Konami.
Yeah, something they have a history with. I could see that.
Yeah. That's interesting, but I mean,
the only reason I could see that is because Konami is not really interested in the gaming space anymore.
Right. Yeah,
and their IP is just sitting there.
Buy.
They're just sitting there, and they're thinking, oh, I could just sell it, make some money. This company's out for me, whatever.
And not nearly to the extent of Activision Blizzard, but they've also been in their own series of controversies. Like recently, the Castlevania NFTs caused a lot of people to get upset. So I'm thinking if they're going
that went
to
over so well.
if they're going to buy a third-party studio to start competing, my guess is Konami. Like I said, though, my predictive skills have proven to be imperfect. So,
well, I mean, we all are imperfect. That's a good educated guess.
Speak for yourselves.
I mean, yeah, except for Larry there. Konami, maybe Capcom, something like that. I could see them. Now, I just don't understand. I don't think Sony would want to trade blows like this because if they do, then they're on the short end of the stick like every time.
Right.
Personally, I mean, they're the market leader. They have the most revenue. If they just keep doing what they're doing, they still have to change their business model in some way. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with this. What is it? The codename's not Spartacus. Is it Spartacus?
Spartacus,
yeah, that sounds right.
It'll be interesting to see. I don't even know if it matters at this point anymore. That's the whole thing. Like, if it doesn't have backward compatibility in it somewhere, it's going to be a problem, I think, for a lot of people because like we were saying, this old IP, they could just make bank on it,
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, looking at time here, closing question, kind of round the table here. What's the one thing in this whole news event that strikes you that you don't see anybody really talking about? Like, what's the one thing rattling around your brain on this topic that you're like, this is obvious to me. Why has nobody else said anything on this yet?
I don't even know if I'm there yet. Like, honestly, I think I have to digest it a little bit more.
I think I'm too much in shock to have noticed something that anyone else wouldn't have,
The only thing I want to know is who approached whom for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And why did, like you were saying, Larry, because there's no leaks on this deal. This obviously happened very quickly. And I would be interested to know about, at the high levels of our government, the antitrust talks, because I know they're happening. And I'm guaranteeing they're happening between Microsoft's lawyers and some lawyers at the DOJ or the FTC or something, because they're controlling a whole vertical now. And I know other companies control verticals too, and I get crap for this all the time. But the problem is they're so huge. They have a $2.23 million or $1 trillion market cap.
Yeah.
that they could stifle all other competition because Game Pass is cheaper. It could be seen as, even if they offer the game for $70 retail, it could be seen as undercutting competition, $15 a month or $10 a month or whatever. They're just wording stuff way too deliberately for me not to even worry about that kind of stuff. That's the kind of thing I want to talk about more. But I got to see more on it. I think it's going to, as the days happen, it's going to come.
Year and a half goes on.
Yeah, it's going to. Some of the stuff is going to come to light, and some of the stuff is going to make a great documentary 20 years from now.
Right.
Wes, what about you?
Going a little on what you said about monopolies, I'm hearing a lot of people say that they think because the government approved of the Disney-Fox merger that this is guaranteed to go on. My little bit of a counter argument is, one, Microsoft is well known for buying up companies in the 90s. That people don't seem to remember Bill Gates was not the little lovable goofball that he's seen as today.
Yeah, he was not. Yeah, because he was CEO of Microsoft back then. That was the issue. Yeah.
And two, Congress historically knows very little about video games, and they might be thinking, technology in general, which video games are part of, and they might be thinking, ooh, that's scary, because they probably don't care if you go to the movies and if all the movies you watch are by the same company. In the end, if the superhero movies are owned by Disney or are owned by Fox, they probably don't see a difference. But technology scary. Can't have one big tech company. And something that's relatively smaller that you kind of made me remember, LeGrew, I'm starting to wonder if this is actually going to see some games slow down the rate at which they go up from 60 to 70, because it's going to happen eventually, and we're seeing it happen now. But notice Microsoft's big releases so far, if you bought them retail instead of through Game Pass, have all been $60, at least as of now. This includes Forza Horizon 5, which is a beautiful game, which you can tell there was a lot of effort into it. And so that was published by Microsoft. Whereas Call of Duty, has been one of the games that's made the jump from 60 to 70, at least for the next gen versions. So I'm starting to wonder, how much autonomy are they going to give on prices, and how is this going to affect the price jump? Is this going to slow down how long it takes to make that jump to 70, or is this going to not really make a difference in that?
I don't think it's going to make a huge difference, honestly. At this point, I think it's not long before the Microsoft stuff starts popping up at 70 as well, and that's just the end of it. So
we're in this weird space too, where we're transitioning generations right now.
Yeah,
I would say it's already happened. It's just that because of supply chain constraints, it's taking longer than it should. And so they may be holding back prices because of that, Wes. Like you're saying, if I can't get the new version of Call of Duty, but I got to pay $70 on it, I can't get it from my new Xbox, for example, or my new PlayStation, but I got to pay $70 on the old one. That kind of is weird. So they just make it, all around $50 or $60 or whatever, But
I got you.
It's just, I don't know. It's time is going to tell, and I think over the next 3 months, we're going to see so much more. But the next 6 to 9 to 12 months is just going to be, it's just going to blow our minds, I think.
Yeah. And that's another thing too, is, keep in mind, this is not something that it's a one and done story. This is going to keep popping up in chunks over the next 18 to 24 months, really.
Right.
Since this doesn't close until 2023, but
June.
Yeah. And that's assuming everything goes according to plan.
That's assuming it gets okayed by the government, which it's not 100% it's going to right now. Right now I've been reading, and they're talking about 80% chance that it goes through. Right. 20% chance that the government halts it and asks for clarification.
Now, I will say I don't think there's any major any major chance that this falls apart, for the simple fact that I don't think this is honestly as big of a legal monopoly as some people think it is, because Activision Blizzard is one of the three titans of the publishing houses, but across the industry, there's still only a fraction or a percentage, because you've got the two other titans out there. You have the console holders as well. And on top of that, you have countless, and I mean just as far as the eye can see, independent developer publishers out there as well that make up a huge percentage of, but just because there's so many of them to make up that sizable percentage, it's not really thought about or talked about.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think like the main issue with that is what's going to really solidify that for me is if what Microsoft does with the power they now have. If they hold up individual developers and help people and help the small guy, in fact, they may actually be legally required to do so, because if they start stifling that competition and holding that competition down with their thumb, that's where you're going to come into a problem.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't think they will. And honestly, if Activision was going to sell to anybody, I prefer it to be Microsoft, because I think out of the available companies, they'd probably be the most likely to play nice.
Right.
That's just my opinion, but I'm not
Also,
saying they're great. I'm just saying probably the most likely to play nice.
Also, I don't know how likely it would be that they would do this, but can you imagine how scary it would be if they were bought by Tencent?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
no
the whole
kidding.
thing. Bought by-
Tencent's probably closer to a monopoly than anybody.
Well, and that,
Right.
well, the most problem with Tencent for me actually is that they're an arm of the Communist Party. So you're buying games from them, you're funding whatever they're doing in China that in other parts of the world that are just not good.
Right.
You know?
On top
Right.
of that, they get your info. I mean, I get
Right.
everyone has our info at this point, but at the same time, like,
You're putting them on a console in your home.
right.
You know? Yeah. So
Well, I think that brings us to a great place to close this out for the day. And so I want to close it out here. Say thank you to my buddies LeGrew and Wes for coming and hanging out with me this week and talking, jumping off the board with me into the deep dive on the Activision Blizzard buyout. Thank you to everybody that stopped by and gave us a listen this week. We're hoping to try and get this train rolling and actually moving on the tracks again on a regular basis. It's an in-process thing, but you know, as a matter of fact, keep your eyes and ears peeled to the network RSS feed here in the next week or so. I'm actually looking to maybe put together a state of the network update just to kind of touch base on some of the things that are going on all the way around. But it's nice to kind of get back to this, and you know, I'm looking forward to getting into some of the other topics that we've kind of been sitting on and stockpiling as well. So, but with all that said, you know, like I said, thank you to everybody for tuning in, and we'll be back next time here on World 1-1 Podcast. Press start to engage your mind. Peace.
see you later.
Thank you for listening.